You know, good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in New York City, and this is the Tibet Center, Kunchab Tardu Ling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey. This is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma. Today it's a potpourri of different books by His Holiness and others. Feel free to text in with your complaints or questions. So we'll start with the prayers, which are on the website. In the Tibet Center Prayer Book, it's called, that's the heading?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll do a prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. And before I forget, if there's anyone who has passed away in the last, few months, today to yesterday, put their names in the chat box as soon as you can, so we can all look at their names when we recite the Sutra, the Recollection of the Three Jewels, at the end of class. So we'll start. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Para Gate Para Sam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and the Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its God, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. And now, refuge and bodhisattva vow, it says generating bodhicitta. We say these verses 3 times, as usual. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for a refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So now, as is the custom, and as soon as I get mala out of my coat, what pocket are you in, Mala? Tell me. You will never speak. We'll say one mala round of Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, who symbolizes great compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. So this is an auspicious time of year, as I was mentioning before. This is Chinese New Year's Eve. Chinese New Year's tomorrow, of course. Tibetan New Year's Eve is tomorrow, and the Tibetan New Year's Wednesday. The Mardi Gras is tomorrow, if you want to let the good times roll, or what do they call it? They say le bon temps roulé, something like that. And Wednesday's Ash Wednesday. And Ramadan starts tomorrow night at sundown. Ramadan Mubarak. So a lot's going on. So no matter what your religion, there's some noise you can make and some foods you could eat, although not at Ramadan, in the daytime. So tonight we have a potpourri, as I said before, I said Wednesday night. Different pieces of advice from His Holiness Dalai Lama from various books that I dug up, and also an explanation, introduction to the study of emptiness from this very good book, if you can get your mitts on it, your hands or whatever. Realizing Emptiness by Gen, which is Geshe Lam Rinpa, Lamrimpa, translated as usually perfectly by Alan Wallace. I don't know how perfect he is because I don't speak Tibetan, but it makes a lot of sense. The words flow. It makes it a lot easier. This is a book done in '95. His Holiness Dalai Lama, Many Ways to Nirvana. I don't know if you can see it. Edited by Renuka Singh. These are talks he gave throughout India. If I get Delhi and those big talks. The one question I pulled out for tonight is, are mind and consciousness equivalent names? Sounds like the same thing, but His Holiness, of course, very precise. And his answer is, there are distinctions made in Tibetan, and I guess in Sanskrit too, but I don't know that. But it is difficult to say whether English words carry the same connotations. Where mind refers to primary consciousness, it would probably be the same as consciousness. But mind is more than mind. We only have the word mind. So there are levels of awareness and consciousness. In Tibetan, awareness is the general term and is divided into primary consciousnesses and secondary mental factors. They break it out more, both of which are further subdivided. So that's why His Holiness says Western psychology is still in kindergarten. They haven't studied the way the mind breaks out when it does this or that, which is important if you want to heal the mind. So psychologists are now studying a lot of the Nalanda system presentation of the mind, which this is, comes from India. Also, when we speak of awareness, there are mental and sensory awarenesses. Okay. There's ways of knowing by touch, by sight, by taste, all these things. They call them all awarenesses or sensory consciousnesses through here. The former has many subdivisions to various degrees of roughness and subtlety. There's also subtle and coarse, or whatever you want to call it. There's degrees. It is difficult to say whether or not the English words correspond to the Tibetan ones in terms of precision. They probably don't. That's the problem. There are different meditative states that we don't know about yet in English, or only those who have studied. So we don't have the everyday words to match them, but they're working on it. The next question is the mind something that really exists, or is it an illusion too? Everything is illusion-like, because the reason being they make that statement, things don't exist really as they appear to our deluded consciousnesses. That's a big assumption psychologists in the West don't make it. What do you mean you're deluded? You know, if you're healthy and you're functioning, well, it's something beyond that. And His Holiness says it's the same thing. According to Prasangika Madhyamika, the consequent school of the middle way, the highest, most precise view. Now you might want to know why they have different views, because, hi, good evening. Happy New Year almost. Xinjiang Kuai-Lin, something like that. Why are there different schools? You know, this school does this, you know, and then this school says, no, that's not right. Then like a ladder going, because, and Buddha presented them all, because he taught to the ability of the audience. He had that ability. A Buddha, full Buddha has that. So he would present those things that someone could grasp, get an idea of, and then move on. If you gave them certain people who have not developed yet spiritually, the highest school, all right, this is nuts, and don't project it out of hand, go somewhere else. So he's, like we do in our school system, you teach first grade some way, second grade, you don't introduce higher mathematics until the kid's a little older, Same thing with the Buddha, so that's very important. You can't reject any of the Buddha's teachings because they were all taught with the purpose of relieving suffering. That's the game here. You're suffering, you don't even know how much you're suffering, and we want to get rid of it for you. I want to get rid of my own too. It's not that, but the Buddha thinks that way. So he presents what you can handle at the time. And embedded in that is a little hook that brings you higher. Wait a minute, that makes sense, but. So the whole four schools are very involved, but there's a purpose to them. It's the same thing called the highest school, okay. It's the same thing whether it's an external object or an internal consciousness that apprehends it. In other words, the way we view our own mind is a projection. We're not seeing it as it really is something. We have assigned a certain value to things, and it may not be correct. Actually, it probably isn't, because we wouldn't suffer if it was correct. Something like that.
Is it safe to say that the I is also a projection?
The I, as inherently existent, is a projection. Because when you search for it, you can't find it. But it works, and you can be assigned a task to do for homework. You could be, I could go to jail. I could, and there's times you need I. I will attain enlightenment. I will do this. But the idea that you're self-originated, you just popped out of nowhere and you're complete and that's it, no. And you're not acted on by external thoughts, by thoughts that come up and external circumstances. You're dependent on all of these things. So that's why, yes, it exists, but doesn't exist inherently. And inherently is very hard to understand because we don't use the word regularly in English. And when we do, we need something usually like it's a disease someone has, we have to get our minds used to that. Both exist by the power of name. Neither is truly existent. In other words, outside objects and the internal mind, same thing. They exist by the power of name, designation, a designating consciousness. It's not truly existent. Because it depends on something, it can't be truly, and truly and technically means exists as it appears. So when they use truly in English now, that's representing a Tibetan word, it means exists as it appears. Thought exists merely in name, so do voidness, in other words, or emptiness, Buddha, good, bad, and indifferent. All names designated by an ordinary conventional consciousness that everyone agrees to. It's conventional. We convene on the meaning together. Everything exists solely by the power of name. This is heavy. What is Trump? A name only. Well, Trump doesn't realize he's teaching emptiness. Republican in name only. Well, that's true. No, he was a yogi. Nobody told me. When we say name only, His Holiness continues, there is no way to understand what it means other than that it cuts off meanings that are not only name. It cuts off meanings that are not only name. If you take a real person and a phantom person, both are the same in that they exist merely by name, but there is a difference between them. Whatever exists or does not exist is merely labeled, but in name some things exist and others do not. The water in a mirage does not exist, even though it's a name too. According to the mind-only school, this is like the third of the fourth schools, and the schools break up into parts too. There's no end to this. They love it. They love this scholarly stuff. External phenomena appear to inherently exist, but are in fact empty of external inherent existence. They're saying this is all a projection. Well, how come everybody sees the same room? Because we have the same karma going off at the same time, projecting these things, this room, and we're together because we have the same karma to bring us together at this time. It's a training thing. It works for a while. It gets you used to things that may not have solid existence somewhat, but it's not the final word. but it works. You can even practice some tantra on it with that philosophical background. The mind is truly existent. They say, yes, everything is the mind. That's where they fall. Everything depends on mind. It's all a projection of mind. They think the mind is the final thing. It inherently exists. It's causing all of this stuff. And then someone taps them on the shoulder, argues with them, and shows them the fallacy of that viewpoint, and then they go to the higher school. This is the training that they get. They train in a certain school. It makes a lot of sense for a while. Then someone starts countering your argument. Oh. Then you go next, and you next. The Prasangika schools, the higher school, is called consequence school, because when they argue points, they don't use syllogism. They do, and they have to. But they just use the opponent's, you said this, you said that, so it logically follows that this is that. Oh no, it can't, you get them on their own words, in other words. Reductio ad absurdum in English. You show them the absurdity of their argument. Why did they do that? Because if you use syllogism, they're saying, you're acceding to the values of the other person who believes in some figment of inherent existence. So you're clean if you're going just against his argument. There's no mutual assumption behind the argument as there is with the syllogisms. So you could use this in life when you argue contracts. So, and then he says, His Holiness in His great wisdom, I think this is enough about Buddhist tenets for now. So it's a good intro, but so that is called, let's see, what is it called? Emptiness means you're looking for inherent existence and you don't find it. Things that seem to be inherent aren't. The non-finding is emptiness. They're empty of inherent existence. You don't go looking for emptiness. We say this constantly because it was repeated a lot of times. You look for inherent existence. Not finding, emptiness dawns on you. Something comes to you finally, because that's what's really there. What you're doing is eliminating a lot of your, I know it's this, it's that, it's that. Slowly, by working, you're getting rid of your ideas of things, and the truth comes to you. Joseph Campbell said in the introduction to Chungla's biography, truth comes in on dove's feet. He quoted Nietzsche. It comes in quietly. And sometimes you fall off the horse, like St. Paul's, I don't know. So, this is from a book, and this book is very interesting. If you want to buy one book, this is like a Lamrim. It's called From Here to Enlightenment, a nice Hollywood title. Really, they got to jazz it up. This was a talk he gave, I think in the late 80s, in Pennsylvania at Lehigh College. This is put together, translated, edited, and annotated by Guy Newland, an excellent scholar and practitioner. He practices. So his books are very lucid. There's a question section. So maybe you can relax now, no heavy tenets. And the first question is a trivial question. His Holiness, how do you define true happiness? Not a sandwich, no, not a drink. Not certain women or men or whatever. Answer. In Buddhism, happiness is not just a positive feeling, but also a state of true freedom from suffering and its causes, all the levels of suffering, including bewilderment, not knowing, all that. It is a happiness that is lasting and deep. In other words, you never go from that position. That's it. It's everlasting once you get it. So we're selling tickets to that now. No, we're not. It's free. In general, happiness means deep satisfaction. Sometimes even physical hardships, some type of physical suffering, can bring a sense of satisfaction. How? Between physical satisfaction and mental satisfaction, happiness mainly refers to mental satisfaction. True, because you could be very nervous and upset and someone puts a beautiful, delicious meal in front of you. You don't feel like eating it. The mind rules. That's the big thing. The emotions, the mind, whatever. So you could be in your most expensive car, beautiful house, and you're very upset and frustrating. You're not enjoying all of these things around you, which you should, because your karma got them for you. So that's important. make the mind happy, you make everything happy, including the world. Sometimes ignorance gives rise to a temporary mental satisfaction, a short-sighted kind of satisfaction. Think of drugs, things like that. I think there's somewhere. So to refine our definition, we could say that happiness is deep mental satisfaction that arises from awareness, from wisdom. Awareness of the way things really are. Wisdom, that's it. I'm not aware of the way things are, but I'm trying. So, the next question. You had enough? You want a question back? See what he said. Challenge. Any challenges? I'm watching the clock. No one's coming. It's too late. I think that's either the tango class or whatever. If suffering is caused by the mind, someone in the audience asked, this is a good audience, by the way, students. What is one to do in difficult situations where external circumstances are hard to change? For example, if a spouse or father is an alcoholic, should the partner or child stay and seek happiness there despite the partner's drinking? Or should one take the children and seek life without the drinker? Tough question, right? And here he says, to say that suffering is caused by the mind per se is too general, is how his mind works. It's too general because even the Buddha has consciousness or mind. The Buddha's not suffering. So you can't say that. So the cause of suffering is not just the mind per se. It is an undisciplined, untamed mind. So if you want to do that, that's what he's talking about. So you've got to be specific. The way they work with words and the way their logic goes is very impressive. Of course, there are always some conditions which are external and some conditions which are internal. In each situation as it arises, one has to consider, in light of all these conditions, what is the best course of action. So you do have to take some action. Your Holiness, someone asks, how is it possible to live an ordinary life, working at a job, paying bills, taking care of a family, and so on, without grasping? So His Holiness says, how do you understand the idea of grasping? What does that mean? If your engagement with others is tainted by strong attachment, craving, aversion, anger, and so forth, then that form of grasping is undesirable. It's simple. It's a simple end. It's very good. But on the other hand, when you are interacting with other living beings and become aware of their needs or suffering or pain, then you need to fully engage with that and be compassionate. So there can be positive attachment in this sense of active engagement. Buddhist masters have long used the term, quote, attachment to describe the quality of compassion for others. Sometimes they use that word, attachment. For example, a verse from Haribhadra's Clear Meaning Commentary refers to compassion that is attached to other living beings. And as we have seen, Nagarjuna teaches that attachment for other living beings will arise spontaneously in the person who realizes emptiness. That's the highest form of compassion, by the way. When a person working on being compassionate and developing firm bodhicitta sees sentient beings, not too well trained, sees them as sentient beings, suffering, basically. We see people. The next more developed person knows impermanence so thoroughly that it's part of their outlook on life. They observe sentient beings controlled by impermanence. The first layer of sentient beings, you see them uncontrolled, wild. Second, you see their impermanence. They don't realize it. The third level, one who has understood emptiness directly, an arhat, maybe a bodhisattva arhat going on, sees them as non-inherently existent and they don't know it and they're suffering. In other words, they are suffering needlessly because they don't see reality. They haven't developed. So that kind of compassion, they say, is the greatest. And that comes with the territory. That's the connection there with emptiness and compassion. There are two different things, method, compassion, emptiness, wisdom, but they have to convene. So, Your Holiness, in American culture, many people consider it disgraceful or unacceptable to show weakness, pain, or need. Yes, I know a few people. How can one show compassion by helping someone if that person is unwilling to admit pain or need by asking for help? And he just kicks the question down the road. He said, I don't know. I think it would be better to ask someone with the right sort of expertise. I guess healthcare workers, psychologists, homeless outreach people, you know. How is it possible to make, the last question here, it's a long answer too. How is it possible to maintain the practice of non-grasping when grieving the death of someone that you love, especially when it is a sudden death and one is in great shock? Grief, which Betty and the other grief counselors say has a physical component. Grief is physical sometimes. Depends on the individual, how deep. His Holiness says, it is often this way. Much depends on your overall outlook. Seeing the illusion-like nature of reality certainly does have an impact, but who of us sees that? I do think it is important to make a distinction between two forms of grasping. When someone generates strong compassion for a suffering being, they have genuine attachment to, focus upon, or engagement with that being. This sort of attachment, engagement, turning towards and holding, is not a distorted form of grasping. It is not the form of grasping that we need to eliminate. That's good. That's a good thing. Well, that's attachment, and depends. You can't just apply the leg, slap on the leg, and go home. That's it. No. What we want to eliminate is grasping that is grounded upon falsification of the objects, distortions that arise as affliction, grasp the apparent substantial existence of an object. You're seeing that person's inherent existence, of course. There's a problem. It's not the way the person really is. All right, most of us don't see the person. But some texts say that mental states such as compassion and faith are, by their very nature, virtuous and thus cannot at the same time be afflicted mental states. This is tricky now. This is very subtle. Yet there are other texts that refer to afflicted compassion or afflicted faith. For those of us who have not realized emptiness, when we generate strong devotion towards the Buddha, perhaps there is within that faith, within that devotion, an element of grasping at the Buddha as substantially real. We can't help it anyway. What's the problem? That's my answer. Come on. We're doing what we have. That's true. But eventually that breaks. This makes it an instance of so-called afflicted devotion. Still, afflicted in a certain sense. And you do certain charitable acts, yes, that's karma, and it's tainted somewhat from the viewpoint of emptiness, because that karma will get you, like for instance, doing charity, will get you a nice, wealthy spot in samsara in your next life. You're still in samsara. You're not seeing beyond the veil. So from that kind of viewpoint, it is afflicted. But in general, no, it's very good. It's positive karma. You know. Still, it is important, His Holiness goes on, to distinguish grasping rooted in falsification and distortion from the attachment, focus, or holding that we associate with compassion. In our immediate experience, these two forms of grasping may seem to be the same, but in terms of overall mental environment, they are quite different. Compassion is fact-based, while distorted grasping is not. That's a big point. Fact-based. Not fact-based eventually means that you know what that person's true mode of being is. Or it could also be that you projected something of that poor thing and he's really not that bad off. It could be that too. Distorted grasping is not fact-based. It seems that we can have some understanding that things lack independent existence without this directly affecting our afflictions. But gradually, our understanding of emptiness changes our whole attitude toward external objects and especially internal objects. So just do the analysis, do the meditations, and your viewpoint will change as a result of being tainted by that viewpoint. Let it come to you. A lot of times it comes to you. You can't go out and create it because you don't know exactly what it is. But through these meditations, get rid of your afflictions and your blockages, and the truth comes right at you. because you're already in that state, but we don't know it. So people, when they first see emptiness directly, sometimes they're very afraid. They shouldn't be, because we're all empty. That's our true being. We're just used to the way that we project things, and we're not comfortable all of a sudden. Ugh. A different way of thinking and everything. It's frightening. It's for some, and Rinpoche says, like winning lotto. Ha ha. Or like going on vacation. He uses that a lot. What does someone say? It's like children skipping home on the last day of school. How happy they are to discover this. I think Nawang Dorje said that. Yeah, he's gone now. Gradually, this reduces our afflictions, or at least reduces their intensity and strength, strengthens our virtuous attitude. So slowly doing these things is going to change your character, subtly, but the only way you realize that is that, 6 months ago, but now I understand, that's a good sign. 2 years ago, I couldn't deal with this situation. No, it's not a big deal. I can handle him or her. So, especially at work, things like that. That's a sign. We all look for the big blast and the bulletin from headquarters. It shows up. Like someone appears in the room in your dream. How did they get in here? How did they suddenly leave? Things like that happen. On dove's feet. These things can vary according to our physical constitution and mental disposition of the individual. So that's it for questions from Lehigh University in the late 90s. I don't know when this was done, but any books you see by Guy Newland, especially on emptiness, is very clear. He was a professor, Roger Jackson, those guys, Geshe Sopa, they taught class in the United States. So they're very good at handling the Tibetan meaning and the Sanskrit meaning in English and presenting it to the American student because they know their background. What time do we have now? Since it's so important, since nobody's new here, Buddhists, so we'll do the realizing emptiness a little bit from this. Alan Wilson, he went on long retreats, and during one of the retreats, Genlam Rinpoche would speak, when the retreatants broke the meditation to come to class, and these are the lectures he gave. I marked the page, and now I can. There it is, yes, very good. This is page 21 of this book, actually the introduction, but suitable teachers and students for teachings on emptiness. Who's suitable to teach? Who's suitable to listen? Good luck. See you in the hood. See you in South Orange. The schedule's thrown off, It's a holiday schedule. You got okay. All right. He lives in South Orange in Chungla's house. We bought Chungla's house. Isn't it amazing? No deal with it. Just came up out of the pile. He teaches Chinese herbalist medicine. I think his wife's a doctor too. Suitable teachers and students for teachings on emptiness. Let's see if you stack up there, Young. Bill, you're next. Who are the appropriate recipients for these teachings? In the old days, they were not taught outwardly. A lot of times the student would wait, but they give a brief explanation. So, to be an appropriate recipient, one needs quite a few qualities. First, one needs to have faith in such teachings, and second, one must be certain about the fact that emptiness does not mean utter non-existence. They will bang this point around daily. Doesn't mean non-existence. Third, when establishing the mode of existence of phenomena, all right, they don't have inherent existence, so how do they exist? One must recognize that activities, relationships, and functions occur even though phenomena are empty of inherent existence. We're so grounded in inherent existence that we can't see that possibly anything worse. We're not, obviously our idea of inherent existence is wrong. And these teachings are slowly opening us up to them. It is said that if one has these qualities, then it is appropriate to receive teachings on emptiness. In other words, a wise person that can discriminate somewhat, you know. An inappropriate recipient, for example, may be a person who thinks, if I don't exist, then I do not accumulate karma, and since I do not accumulate karma, I don't have to experience the results of karma. So there. I like that for a while. Quite to the contrary, it is necessary to assert the validity of the following statement in the context of the teachings on emptiness. And the statement is, while phenomena are empty of inherent nature, they do exist in a dependently related fashion, and therefore activities and functions can be established. They can interact, they can depend. So there's functionality, there's interaction. It's not a static situation. But that's what we think. That's there, it's never changing, it's never mind. So Nagarjuna stated that anything that is fit to be empty of inherent existence is fit to have all qualities, while anything that is not fit to be empty is not fit to have any qualities. The other way of saying it is everything exists because emptiness exists. If emptiness didn't exist, nothing could exist. Nothing can exist inherently. It has to. Things are not that way. Even the Buddha is not inherently existent. Everyone's shocked when someone says that. Somebody says, you're shocked because you don't know the idea of inherent existence. You know what it means. So start. You have to study. You have to read. So, you, me, and the Buddha are all not inherently existent. Comforting, isn't it? The same level, hey. This means that if something is empty of inherent nature, then the Four Noble Truths can definitely be established. Suffering, cause of suffering. Because the Four Noble Truths present your situation and how to get out of it. Well, if things weren't non-inherently existent, there's no way of getting out of anything. There's no motion. There's nothing interacting. Nothing is contingent on something else. But there's nothing but contingency. If there were something not empty of inherent existence, then the Four Noble Truths could not be established. Even if one thing is inherently existent, the whole thing is thrown out. So they can't be. I find that many Westerners, this is Genlam Rinpa speaking, by the way, notice only. I find that many Westerners are drawn to the topic of emptiness, and as this is the case, it is important to recognize that emptiness does not mean utter non-existence. Although things are empty, their relative functions are still valid. I will explain later on how things empty of inherent existence are fit to have functions and relationships, and how things not empty of inherent existence may not have such functions, qualities, or relationships. In other words, this is the overture to the opera. He's getting all the little themes in now that he's going to develop in each chapter, in each lecture, as the students meditate more and more. I think they were on a 6-month retreat somewhere in Oregon or something. He mentions it in the book. That's not important. What he's saying is important. So far, tough to understand?
Yes
Simple.
and no.
Yeah, yes, and that's the way I feel. Yes and no. You know, it's all these years still.
It feels better that it's when everything's like that. So okay, well if everything's like that, then I don't have much to worry about.
Well, the main thing he's telling you, don't go fall to nihilism, because then you don't care how you act. And cause and effect works whether we believe in it or not. That's the hard truth. You do this, that's going to happen now many years from now or next half hour. But cause and effect is always on the job. It's the nature of things. So don't go against it. Really. It is very important if you ever teach emptiness to make sure that the people you are teaching are free from the pitfall of thinking that since phenomena are empty of inherent existence, they are therefore non-existent. See how they repeat the point for a reason? And that causal relationships don't hold. If you are not careful of that and teach people who would respond in that way, you will incur a downfall if you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts. That's true. It is important to emphasize this point when giving teachings on emptiness. The reason for the seriousness of this issue is that if people infer that since phenomena are empty, they're therefore non-existent, therefore there's no karma, such people undermine the very basis of their spiritual practice of cultivating the wholesome and avoiding the unwholesome. that emptiness teaching is so important that even if you hear it and don't understand it, you're on the road to cracking samsara. Just say, I heard it, okay. One time, Chungla was teaching the Prajnaparamita Sutra, and Lavinia's dog was wandering around the room. He was a little dachshund, I don't think he knew. So when the class was over, Rinpoche pointed up and said, lucky dog, he heard Prajnaparamita. That's how important the teachings are. Just to land on the ear of a conscious being is setting up something that's going to, the seeds are there that are going to grow, and that dog will meet the teachings in the future. That's how heavy emptiness teachings are. So it's got to be handled carefully. It's radioactive. Let's see, do we want to finish this? Yeah, we have time to finish.
Remember when Rinpoche had Bodhi in his apartment? And
The cat.
Yeah, and his cat was sick. He had fetal leukemia, and so Rinpoche left His Holiness on a tape loop that would go on all day.
Right.
And he said that it was an empowerment. And he thought it was funny because the Bodhi got the empowerment, but a lot of people didn't get that empowerment.
That's right. The lamas would play His Holiness teachings. So animals, I think Vasubandhu, one of them was a parrot in a previous life, and his brother, the eldest son, was reciting all the time. The parrot died, was born a human, a very erudite person. Wrote one of the Abhidharmas, so it has an effect because the consciousnesses are the same. We don't want to admit this, we're humans. But something landing there, and if it's blessed, the Buddhist teaching is something, it's going to have its effect when conditions are ripe. So it's a big deal. So even hearing this, we don't understand, I don't know. It's there. The part that doesn't understand is going to be obliterated soon. It's our projections covering the truth, so we don't have to worry. Now that we have covered the qualification of an appropriate recipient of the teachings on emptiness, the next question is, what are the qualities of a fully qualified recipient? So the teacher is one person, has to know what he or she is talking about. The recipient is, these are discussed in a text called Guide to the Middle Way, the Madhyamaka Avatara by Chandrakirti. There he says that one of the characteristics of a fully qualified student or recipient is that one repeatedly becomes thrilled by such teachings, such that tears may flow from gladness. These are people that have encountered it before, I would think, because I haven't had this experience. But if you have had some contact, you're going to have emotional reactions. They'll say something. Some people cry for joy when they win a gold trophy. Just so, Chandrakirti said that tears of joy may spontaneously flow, and one's hair may stand on end when one hears the teachings on emptiness. There's a nervous system response. There's something going on. So there's something. Well, it could be for contact with the Dharma.
Yeah, I was on the meditation retreat.
Yeah.
Pali for the first time, never heard of it. Like,
The Pali.
hair, everything stood up, like, I never felt like something was.
Yes, it's the Buddha Dharma. That's very good. So you have roots. You have good roots. No, that's very good. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Except you want to feel that again sometimes.
Well, that's the problem. You start craving something that you're creating now from the memory. I know. It'll happen, don't worry. You load it up. This indicates that there are seeds or potentialities present that stimulate the awareness of one's naturally abiding Buddha nature. We have the Buddha nature. It's now, you rang? Suddenly, when lying dormant all this time. Calling the Buddha nature. Wakey, wakey. It means that you are fit to realize emptiness. Good news. You have an emotion. Then Chandrakirti says that, this is Chandrakirti speaking, says that the teachings on emptiness should be offered to such recipients, because they will hold back if someone's going to misunderstand them and cause themselves more trouble. They're not doing it to be, biased to something. No, this guy cannot handle it yet. Remember the movie, Jack? You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the ultimate truth. They should have put ultimate in there. Then the Buddhists would understand. Chandrakirti goes on to say that in order to meditate on emptiness in this and future lives, it is necessary to cultivate certain cooperative conditions that would facilitate such practice. Okay, what do we do to set ourselves up? For example, it's important not to be afflicted with poverty. Oh. It is difficult to meditate if you don't have enough to eat. That's it for real. So now they're showing you why the complete path includes a lot of the right ways of living, what do they call it, Eightfold Path or something like that. Yeah. To avoid poverty in future lives, engage in generosity, for the karmic result of generosity is the absence of poverty. That's why we're here. In order to continue the practice in future lives, it's important to have a rebirth in a fortunate realm of existence. You got to be around where the teachings are, where there's no pestilence, war, and all the other stuff you can't even breathe. And for this, one must cultivate ethical discipline, the second paramita. They're in sequential order. In order to be led by a spiritual mentor who will continue to guide one in one's practice, it is necessary to cultivate patience. All these set you up to understand emptiness. And Shantideva in his book said, all the first 8 chapters are being taught, so now you can understand the 9th chapter, and he presents emptiness. So all of those teachings on patience and ethics and not being jealous, all that, cultivating bodhicitta, setting you up for now, the final chapter before the dedication. That's a big thing. And it makes logical sense. So this gives you the ability to understand. Also, in order to have the proper incentive for future lives, one should cultivate a like cause in this life, namely enthusiasm. Yeah, I want to learn this. And the same holds true for the cultivation of meditative stabilization. You could stabilize them and make the mind one-pointed when you're ethically, when you have good ethics, you're patient, you have enough to eat, you're cheerful, joyous, enthusiasm. All these things makes it easy for you to sit and cultivate a one-pointed mind. And then with that, you have the tool to penetrate difficult topics. These are all understood as sowing the seeds to produce conducive circumstances so that one will carry on with the practice in future lives. In order to carry the practice to its culmination, which is attaining the full awakening of a Buddha, cultivating these practices should be or is indispensable. Yes, the cultivation is indispensable. That's the right grammar. So that's it. So here's the technique of Buddhism. I want to learn emptiness. I want to learn. Prepare yourself to be the person who can. You have patience. You have good ethics. You have enough to eat. You're in a good situation. You're in the right. Are you cheerful, willing to be happy about this? And you do that by studying and doing the preparatory practice. The Lamrim is presented for that reason. The Lamrim at the end does wisdom. Before that it does, samadhi, or one point in mind. Before that, all the other practices, ethics, patience, bodhicitta. So that's the reason. Going at something cold, I want to understand emptiness. You get batted around a little, but if you live the life, you have to live the life as best as you can, and according to your teacher's instructions. That's all. By cultivating generosity and so forth, one paves the way for future lives in which one continues such practices. Moreover, this manner of cultivation enhances one's practice in this lifetime. Oh, but I want it right away. Yeah, well, you're doing the same thing. You're laying down as if you have many lives. Now, with that mindset, you're getting more progress in this life. So that's something you have to understand. These are tough topics, but it ends suffering forever. And not only that, you're able to get others out of it, which is what a lot of us want. You can see it in people's wishes here and what you try to do, and other people you try to help here as much as it's there, that seed of compassion, Yingzhe, the heart of the teachings. So now we need the right tool to actually do it. And it's a lot easier as it goes on. So, what else? That's about, I don't want to introduce the other books. Just
Time, right?
it's what?
If you start feeling like you're doing it over many lives.
That's right.
And having a lot of time, then you will stop part of that mental grasping. I got to do it now.
Amen. Very good. Amen.
Oh,
And what does that do? You freeze.
it is.
Yeah.
it's fine.
Then things could come in at you, because remember, I already have Buddha nature. That's something else to go out and find. I'm going up, taking a bus to find Buddha nature.
Yeah,
So-
some people they say are practicing, right, and they get a glimpse, you get a glimpse of that. and
People
it's
say that, yeah,
a
you,
little quick.
yes, some
realization,
people get
what was
hurt.
that?
And some who practice a lot in previous lives, suddenly never heard Buddhism, they come in, they sit around for, there's stories of that. After a year or so, they're very advanced spiritually, or more. You know, Zen stories are a lot like this. Somebody gets slapped in the face and becomes a Buddha. Hey, once I'll try, but I'm not, you know. But it's true, and we have had previous lives, which is not in the popular culture, at least not in the West. China, India, those people, previous lives, of course, previous lives. What do you mean? Of course there are. But here it's a big deal. What? I was a prince. Yeah, there was already somebody prominent in the old days. Well, I was in the sales department. Whatever, you know. We don't know. But that's true. That's a very big point you made. Relax and it goes faster, I think. Well, just think of your mind when you think there's not much time. Especially when you're leaving the house. Everything is forgotten you're supposed to take. Whereas if you went about it nicely.
I sometimes get anxious because I haven't finished all my Buddhist books. And
We all do
understood
that.
them.
Amen.
Oh, here's my chance.
Amen.
It's my chance now. I got to do it now. What if I don't
Amen.
see it for another 1,000 years?
That's right. That's right. You get like a black church. We answer back. That's true.
But it's really like it'll come. Just accept that it'll come, and you can
Yeah, and it's coming as
take
we're
that
speaking.
pressure off. Well, yeah.
Plus, you're fortunate enough to meet very high lamas. You know, and you did something with it. So even like, I was one to have the Bloomfield Rob. He spent a lot of time listening to teachings. And wonder if someday we can find him and help him, you know. But nevertheless, the seed's planted. So that's good. That's why we keep the Tibet Center going. That's it. That's the reason. So what time is it? Oh, see, we got to start doing. Darren, do you have a name for your cousin? You know, oh, good. You put the prayers in order. Good. They're in the same order we say them.
Pretty much,
Very good. So we're doing the Sutra Recollection of Noble Three Jewels for three people who have died. Michael Parenti. That's your cousin?
yeah.
Parenti, my mother's best friend was Millie Parenti, the Parenti family in the village. I wonder if he's related. Harold Wyant, W-Y-A-N-T, and of course Robert Duvall, the actor. Good actor, very good actor. Sutra Recollection Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats, who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely pure. It is completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha, the great Yama, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. So next we have to scroll down, 8 verses for training the mind. Someone said this is a very tricky text because we all can understand it, but can we live it? Can we practice it? With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even the wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as light illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. So the final prayer for a swift return of Rato Chungla Rinpoche, written by His Holiness Dalai Lama. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of one wearing saffron robes, Guru Losang Tukwang Dorje Chang. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers. Lord of speech of the victor Losang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence's end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta, drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled, supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Losang Tempe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimata Devi, and the oceans of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. So this concludes tonight's presentation. Next one will be Wednesday night, 2 days from now, from our parsonage in South Orange. On our website, you have instructions on how to get there, and there's always a little snack waiting for you. It's nice and warm in the winter and cool in the summer, and on and on. There will be a white tarot practice this Saturday at 1 p.m., also in the parsonage in South Orange. Our website has all that information too. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Big love to all of you. Thank you.